And welcome everybody to the 12 o'clock show with Mayor Joe, with the one and only guest today. We had a cancellation, but Reynoldsburg City School Board member Mandy Young is here to join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I know everybody is really looks forward to coming on to the show, talking especially about the schools. So kind of just jump right in. The district has been actively seeking a lot of feedback from residents in Reynoldsburg. So what's the plan? All right, so when they get all that information, what's the next step? What are they going to do?
Okay, so this strategic planning committee will be meeting in April and May to review and identify themes and priorities that were outlined within the feedback that we received. And then in June and July, our district leadership team will work on creating that strategic plan.
Okay, so that's good, because I know one of the things that I talked about in my State of the City, and we've talked about, and I know even the superintendent mentioned at the State of the Schools, is that this truly is the time for residents to make their voices heard, to get that information out there. I think the survey is still active,
Yes,
at least through the end of this month, so we've got a couple more days. So if you hadn't had a chance, I'm sure you can find it on the website. So as far as for you, without looking at what the residents are saying, what do you think the three biggest challenges for the district are right now?
Definitely school funding. We have not had any new funding from the community in over 15 years, so that has really created some challenges, along with the fact that there's proposed legislation at the State House level that, if passed, could be very challenging, even more so for our district than what it already is. So that's number one. Number two, I would have to say, is implementation of new legislation. The Parents' Bill of Rights, cell phone usage, AI, all of those are things that need to be implemented into our district policies. So that's currently being worked on, but I do see that as, a challenge for the district. And then third, I would have to say that hiring hard to fill positions is always a battle, such as school psychologists, intervention specialists, and foreign language teachers. There is a shortage of those positions specifically, and of course, anytime we contract out for those specific positions, it comes at an increased cost to the district. So we're really trying to keep those positions in-house and trying to find and fill those internally.
So it's interesting because, and we're not going to talk about school funding a lot, I promise. But one of the things that's interesting in this, because the governor's has his budget, and now the State House is looking at what they're doing. But what was interesting about the governor's budget is, in the past, it had made adjustments on what schools would get based on current pricing. With this particular budget that he's proposed, he's frozen it. He has not taken into consideration anything from his last budget, and between now and his last budget, there's this thing called inflation. I don't know, it's been in the news. I don't know if you heard about it.
Oh yeah.
That has obviously impacted a lot of things as well, in terms of how schools are funded, so we don't know. And unfortunately, what the prevailing sense is, as bad as the governor's budget is, there's a very big concern that the State House budget that ultimately go through might actually indeed be worse for districts. So that'll be something that's there. I do think the implementation, the cell phone thing is always going to be an interesting one, because for every person that truly believes that cell phones are making a life of a student and teacher much more difficult, is something that is there. But there's also going to be some parents that will probably be like, no, my kid has to have complete access to it because of whatever particular situation. It's interesting that you mentioned AI, because of how that is impacting on the education. We've seen a little bit here in the city with AI, but when it comes to teaching, I mean, it's like I plug in the right data and then, hey, ChatGPT, go ahead and write me a 2-page paper on such and such. And then there you go, it's done. And then that's the end of it. And that is kind of inaccurate. So that's an interesting thing. Now, I know that the conversation has floated out there, but nothing's been definitively set yet. Have you guys had any other discussions about when a potential levy might come on? I know that board president Abram mentioned that you guys now have a treasurer to do for the levy committee, but I did not know if anything had been, like a timeline had been established.
We are in constant communication with the treasurer and the superintendent. The biggest concern that we're facing right now is the appetite of the community for a levy, knowing that there are costs that are increasing everywhere, and that's something that families are really taking into consideration when they go to cast their ballots.
Yeah. Well, it'll be an interesting thing to see what happens. Obviously, the governor's budget, the budget will be in long before that point in time, but I know that there's I don't want to call it like a time clock, but I mean, there is a time period where, you have to have a go, no go by, I think July is like the last time to make sure everything gets on to the ballot, correct? So that decision's coming. And this is my favorite thing. So one thing that I do miss about being on the board, and while I do get invited to some of these things, it's the last one, the year-end activities. I realize we're on spring break, and even though there's still certain things going on, but from here until the end of the school year with graduation, there's all sorts of things going on at various schools, field days and things like that. What is there anything that like jumps out at you? Like I really enjoy doing this.
Prom, graduation. Of course, I do love the field days. Wagner Road Elementary is having an Earth Day. I believe it's at the beginning of May. There's some concerts, some specials nights, a STEM night. So, I try to make sure that I'm putting all of these on my calendar as they come along so that I can attend as many as possible.
There's only so much time though, because I mean, it's not like, for the most part, if you're a parent, you have a kid in maybe one or two schools, and you kind of have to balance this. As a board member, you have every elementary school, every junior high, and the high schools, and inevitably a lot of things are always scheduled on the same night, so it's kind of hard to pick and choose.
Yes, the good news is that what I found is that a lot of schools have their things scheduled so that I can start at one building and then go to the next. So I do really appreciate that. I'm not really quite sure how they manage to do that, but I do really appreciate it. And then, of course, after all of the end of the year activities is the beginning of summer. And I really enjoy summer reading programs. So I didn't do this last year. I know I did it the year before, but I am going to start working on that and compiling a list of bookstores and, of course, the Columbus Metropolitan Library of reading challenges that are available within our community for our students.
So yeah, I know you're part of a book club. I tried one of my, I don't call it a New Year's goals, was to go through a book. So I recently finished a book that a resident had given me to read. And so it took a little bit longer than I expected just because of some timing and things like that. So I'm ready to move on to my next. So my goal is to at least try and get 12 books, one book a month on average. That is my goal. Some of it is relatively heavy stuff, and others, like the next book I have up is actually it's a book based on what would happen if the Tim Burton version of Batman's went to an actual third movie. And I know, again, yeah, I'm a nerd, I don't care. But that's like the next one in there. And it's supposed to be a good book, so I'm going to read, that'll be my next brain candy. That'll be something that I'm sure I can go through relatively easily. As far as the school activities, I think the ones that I like the most, obviously graduation is its own thing. But I like the art auctions. When the schools do some art auctions, those are fun because they always have the art auction and then there's other things going on. But I like hanging around and watching and seeing parents and grandparents and they're kind of like competing to like up the bids for their kids' art pieces.
Yes.
And then if there's somebody who's like random who's just like looking and said, "Oh, I like this piece of art," but has no affiliation, you can see the looks from the parents like, "Don't see, no," and then you get the real bidding war in there, and that's always fun because it's usually for a good cause. There's always some sort of a charity with it or something like that, but that's a good thing. I know that there are community hours on a regular basis. I know Neil has his community hours on Fridays from 3 to 4. I know you've had them. Is there anything that's coming up that for you that you have in the near future?
I have not looked at my April calendar yet. Okay.
Yeah, nothing on spring break. Even board members needed some spring break time. So that'll be it. Other than that, I know they've got the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation is doing their purse bingo. I don't know if you had a chance to participate last year. I did not because apparently purses were not my thing. But I'm very well aware of it. Debbie was here a couple weeks ago talking about that, and I know that's on April 12th. Tickets are $40, and you get brunch and a couple mimosas. And I think on the Education Foundation, they've been promoting the various different purses. And I'm pretty sure that everybody I know that wants to go to this one is kind of already picked like the one that they're hoping to win. So hopefully you can make it out for that. Any questions or anything come across?
We do have a few. The first one is, may I ask about the proposal for a DORA? Why now, and what benefits are foreseen?
Oh, that's a good question. Not really for you, but I'll go ahead and. So the Dora is the outdoor refreshment area, designated outdoor refreshment area, and the idea is to. We've been talking about this for a while, but we wanted to make sure that we had enough restaurant and synergy in the area to kind of draw people in. We know there's a couple of new businesses that will be opening up in the Old Town area, and obviously there's potential for the old Tempe Taco to be a new restaurant in the not too distant future, and the negotiations are ongoing for another one. So we could have four restaurant bar type environments just within the Old Town area before the end of the summer, and then you throw in Eastside Brewery, which is also part of that with their restaurant. So now all of a sudden you have a little bit of everything in there, and it's another opportunity for some like community growth and things. And we were kind of holding off on this until the Trivium building was set, because we wanted to make sure we had a couple of different options. The patio features at Prost, everybody, on a nice summer day when it gets a little warmer out, those places are packed. I know just a few weeks ago when we were hitting those 70-degree temperatures, and I would drive by and every seat is taken up at Prost. So those are the kind of things that we're looking for that.
And in conjunction with that same question, they want to know, is there any conflicts with the Tomato Festival or safety concerns for Main Street traffic?
Conflicts with the Tomato Festival, not really, because there's very specific rules. Like we will have the same kind of fenced-in area at the Tomato Festival where people can have their beverages and whatnot. But the intent during that time is you don't have the opportunity to walk from Prost and walk into the Tomato Festival with an alcoholic container, because those are two separate things. That being said, after the Tomato Festival of Cities are over for you, then maybe that's an opportunity for you to go to Prost or Vic's or whatever restaurants kind of go in there. As far as pedestrian traffic and things like that, it's only slightly different than anything else, just because people are going to be, I don't want to call it bar hopping, but in essence that's part of what it is, going from one place to the next. So people will be out there, police will be enforced and things like that. And outside of making sure everybody's following the right crosswalks, we should be in pretty good shape with that.
And then also someone says the other night Taylor Road was closed off. Why?
Yep, that's a great question. This one is because of a sewer project that's being worked on. I do have some information on that. Let me see if I can pull up if I have a picture. Yes, I don't have a picture because the night work is supposed to be done by, I would say by Thursday night into Friday morning is the plan. And then any construction will be on Taylor Road from there. So what they're doing is they're extending the sewer line from basically the front part of the Kroger diagonal across the street, and then they're going to follow Taylor Road all the way back to the property line and then back to a new housing development that's going in. But that sewer line also extends all the way to Summit Road. So when the school district decides to build a middle school and the community is supportive of that, that middle school will then have sewer capacity, because that's kind of important. So yeah, that's what that particular project is.
And last one is, did I see something about adding pickleball courts somewhere?
Yes, pickleball courts as well. You're getting off the hook. I got all these questions. I know you're horribly horrified by it, that you're not it. So yeah, pickleball courts are there. We applied for a grant from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. We did get that, and then we're picking up the rest of the tab for it. So we're going to convert our current JFK tennis courts into what will ultimately be 6 dedicated pickleball courts, 2 tennis courts, and the mid tennis court will be able to be a conversion between regular tennis and pickleball itself. The construction for that won't start until after the Tomato Festival. Usually we have some sort of a pickleball tournament around that same weekend. So we're not going to touch it until after that, but that was approved to council on Monday, and we're going to move forward with that. So we're looking forward to it to be one of the only outdoor court in Reynoldsburg that's official, like actually where the lines are designed and the tennis nets and all of that stuff, all the other things are designed specifically for pickleball.
That's it.
All right. Well, you don't have any questions. Did you have any questions for me? Everybody else seemed to have a bunch of them. All right. Well, you're welcome to stay if you want to. All right. We're going to have some fun at our next council meeting. Our next council meeting is going to be on April 14th, and it's going to be all about chickens. Just waiting for that to linger. So a couple of residents had come to City Council and advocated for Reynoldsburg to revisit its policy on chickens. And so on April 14th, there's going to be a work session from Council, kind of like if you watched the meeting on Monday where they talked about the DORA and they went through and asked a bunch of questions and things like that. This is going to be an opportunity for residents to say whether they are pro-chicken, anti-chicken, or they just want to kind of get an understanding of what it would be like, because there's nothing on the books in Reynoldsburg right now that allows for chickens. They're currently not allowed. So if council wants to move in a particular direction, there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. You know, how many chickens? Do we allow roosters? No. You know, those types of things, like, you know, is there a permitting process? What happens if you don't take care of things? What happens if there's complaints? So there's a lot of things that are there. So the work session will be there, and then the administration and the city attorney's office will then take guidance based on what council says at that time to craft legislation that will show up at a future meeting, and then we'll go from there. Just so because right now we don't necessarily know if this is something council is supportive of, if this is something the community is really supportive of. I mean, there's obviously people that are passionate about it, but we don't know what the full depth of it all that is. And then if everybody is okay with it, then what's it look like? What are the logistics of it? Because once council passes it, that's kind of like their last piece to it, and then it's up to the rest of us at the city to make sure that we take care of all the chicken business that we can. So that's a fun thing. We also have the Reynoldsburg Police Department, Truro Township Fire Department, West Licking Fire, and Violet Township are going to be doing the Battle of the Badges dodgeball game. And this is going to be in support of the Autistic Society of Ohio? Yeah, Autism Society of Ohio. And that's going to be Saturday, April 5th at the Reynoldsburg Community Church. The doors are going to open at 5 p.m. and it's $5 per person, and 100% of the proceeds go to the Autism Society of Central Ohio. And yes, you're probably going to see a lot of advertisement for this over the next week or so because we have a movie called Dodgeball that's a little older, but a lot of quotes and memes will probably be out for that. But it's for a really good cause. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully you can come out and participate in it. We also have some news. The West Licking Fire levy is going to be on the ballot in May for Licking County. So if you live on the Licking County side, West Licking is going to have a fire levy. This will be the first one. The last one did not pass. But they are going to have an open house on April 30th at the Taylor Road Firehouse from 6 to 8 p.m. So they're going to actually open up their doors and talk about the levy, about what it would be like, what's it going to pay for, and stuff like that. And I'm hoping, and I think we'll have a representative from West Licking to come onto the show in the next couple of weeks to talk about that. Obviously, as Western Licking County grows, the fire department's resources can only go so far. Reynoldsburg was incredibly supportive. The last one, Reynoldsburg voted in favor of it. It's just the rest of the Licking County area did not. So I'd like to say we did our part. So hopefully, people can get some answers to their questions about what that levy will look like. The roads update. So we'll start off again with that Taylor Road. So right now we're looking at the evening work is usually going on around 8 o'clock at night until whenever they get wrapped up, in the early hours of the morning. And that's for this particular section. That night work should end, like I said, Thursday into Friday. I've not heard anything different, but we'll get our update on that later today. The other one that's going to be coming up is the Wagner Road one. So Wagner Road, as of Friday, is going to be closed down just before you get to Priestley. They're going to be starting work on a culvert replacement on that area. Culvert's just a fancy word for saying kind of like a bridge over water. And that's going to start on Monday as of right now. They're going to close it down Friday so they can mobilize and get everything ready to go. That will be closed for about 7 to 10 business days, so for about 2 work weeks. You'll have access from Main Street to just before Priestley, both north and south, so you can go all the way around, and you'll also have access from Broad Street to Priestley, and you can go both directions at that point in time until that particular one is done. Once that project is done, they'll probably start mobilizing and getting ready for the next one. The next one is going to be right around just past St. Pius. And that again will be for about 2 weeks, and you'll still have access up into St. Pius from Main Street or just before St. Pius from the Broad Street side. So those are a couple of the big projects. Once those 2 culverts are done, everything is going to go back to northbound traffic only, starting from Main Street until you get to the new MI subdivision at Oldham and Amelia and that area. From that point, you can drive both north and south. So that's the plan. While it hasn't been the most exciting thing and everybody doesn't really see what's going on right now, once these culverts are done, they're going to be talking about doing stormwater, and then you're going to start to see curbs, gutters, and the street trees and sidewalks and all the stuff that you can see that's above ground. So we're getting to that fun part of things which will move much faster. We are anticipating getting a majority of the road work done by August and September, and so people will be able to drive on it at that point in time. And then that'll shift right into phase 2, which will start just after that. We are hoping to get the work at 90% of engineering, and that's supposed to be to us on Friday. So then we'll have a little bit better of a timeline for it. Back to the Taylor Road project. Once they're done with the night work, it'll probably be through about the month of April where they're working on Taylor Road. So there's 3 lanes. They'll probably have equipment in the northbound lane, but you'll still have the other 2 lanes. So it may be narrowed a little bit, but you're still going to have north and southbound access on that. It won't be closed, except if they're trying to back something up in certain ways. They'll probably, have a horn going or something like that and some flaggers out there, but it shouldn't be too bad. Any questions about anything?
Will the metal plates on Wagner Road be tightened up? Several have large gaps.
Yeah, our inspectors go out on a regular basis, so if there are specific ones, like if you could give us a geographic area, it just saves us from having to hunt them down a little bit. But yeah, they can tighten them, and then depending on what work is being done, they can asphalt and kind of seal them up a little bit to make sure they're a little bit more firm. All right.
That's all.
Parks programs, really important. Much like what you guys are doing with the strategic plan, parks are actually doing the Future of Reynoldsburg Parks. So on April 1st, from 6 to 8 o'clock, right here at City Hall, we're going to have kind of a public forum for people to answer questions, very similar to the strategic plan, about what we want to see in our parks. Now, we know what we're looking for at Civic Park, but what about some of the other parks? What are some other things coming up and stuff like that? So that's going to be a fun thing. We also have an owl hike from 7 to 8 o'clock on April 4th at Pine Quarry Park. Apparently, we're going to be looking for owls. They register for families or groups of 5, I think, are settled from there. And then on April 26th, we're going to have our community cleanup. So I'm going to just show you really quickly a couple of the things that are there from our flyer. You've seen it on social media. It's from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. A lot of the usual things are going to be there. Habitat for Humanity will be there, collecting appliances, cabinets, doors. Volunteers of America will be there for clothing, books, and home goods. There's obviously document shredding, medicine collection, flag collection, bike donations. The bulk trash items will be there as well, and electronics, and of course, hazardous materials. So I'm just going to highlight some of the big ones that always seem to get questions. These are things we will take. Oil-based or latex-based paints, rat poison, insecticides, lithium batteries, alkaline batteries, smoke detectors, helium cylinders, and things like that. Things that we do not take. There are no tires. There are no refrigerators or air conditioners because there's chemicals in there, and that's a completely different thing. Unmarked cylinders or cylinders with broken or inoperable valves, and obviously no business waste. So if you're a business and you just want to get rid of a whole bunch of stuff, this is not the time to do it. There are other things, so click on the links on our website and it'll tell you exactly what is and is not being accepted, so we'll go ahead and put those out there. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be fun. We have the Adult Cornhole League starting on May 6th through June 24th at Eastside Brewery from 6 to 9 p.m. It's $40 for a team to register, and you can have 5 players, and you can rotate out based on people's schedules and things like that, which is actually kind of helpful because not everybody has every single week. Sometimes something always comes up. Easter Bunny Breakfast, Saturday, April 12th from 9 to 11 at the Senior Center. Eggs, sausage, pancakes, gifts, games, and the bunny himself will be there, so that'll be fun. We also have the Civic Park Volunteer Cleanup with Franklin County Soil and Water on Saturday, April 5th from 10 to 12. It'll be like if you're pulling into the parking lot at Civic Park, and if you just basically go straight to the center in the very far back area, that's where we're going to be. We'll be pulling out whatever it is Franklin County Soil and Water tell us to. I've been told that there are other things, but the only one I can remember is honeysuckle, and I know we'll take that out. What else we're taking out, I have no idea, but that's what we're taking out there. We also have our Arbor Day coloring contest. You only have a couple more, another week or so to go to turn this in. So if you have a second grader in Reynoldsburg, this is your chance to go ahead and color in this beautiful picture there. The one that wins, so to speak, will get recognized at a special ceremony. So looking forward to that. We have pickleball. We talked about the pickleball court, so that's moving forward. But if you want to learn how to play before you get to that point, you have the 4-week intro lessons that are starting on Monday, April 28th through May 19th from 1 to 3, or you can do the evening class from April 30th to May 21st. Those are on Wednesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. The actual league is going to start on April 22nd to May 27th, and that's where various skills are there. We are always joking that please make sure you register for the skill level you're at. If you're like an expert, please don't register for the beginning course. So, any questions over that so far?
Updates on Bryce Park?
Bryce Park is supposed to be worked on. I just drove by it yesterday. They're going to be getting the pathways down. I know they're getting staging out. I think they're waiting just for the temperatures to get a little bit warmer to put a base coat down for the parking lot area, and then they're going to finish up the trail work itself. So stay tuned. Believe me, I want to get it done, but we're at least past the stage where lawyers are arguing about it. So Cool development news, we have the Minority Female and Veteran Grant. The Monday is the deadline by 5 o'clock, so if you don't get your information into us by Monday at 5 o'clock, then you'll have to wait till next year. So get that in. And we have kind of news on the Crown Pub. I know the Crown Pub has been something, hey, what's going on with that? I don't have what's going in there, but I do have an idea of kind of like the style that's going to be there. So for a while, they've been trying to get something done to make it some sort of a drive-through something or another, where there's a sit-down drive-through portion. So that is going through our planning and zoning. That'll be on the agenda, I think, actually next Thursday. We don't know what restaurant is going in there yet. I think this is one of those things where the restaurants want to see that everything's approved before they commit to anything. So hopefully there'll be something there in the near future. I know the big issue has been the access way, like how do you get in and get out and make sure fire trucks have circulation and stuff like that. So I think that has been ironed out, so that'll be there. And then we actually have some pretty big news. It's one of the big things that I have a responsibility for is to find ways to kind of secure the economic growth of the city. Cities get their revenue from income tax. So if there's a business in Reynoldsburg, that's where the city gets their money. School districts get their funding from property taxes. So we do have a new development that is going to be coming in. It is located on Taylor Road. It is on the eastern side, opposite side of the L Brands Victoria's Secret facility. So I have a couple of pictures, and when I show you pictures, keep in mind that at this point in time, this is what we think it's going to look like. Now, I think some of the elements are going to be relatively simple and kind of consistent, but until they go through the planning and zoning process, those things could change a little bit. And for our purposes, there's going to be some screenage things that we're going to look at to make sure that we get some more trees and mounding and things like that. So when you're driving on Taylor Road, when it's the summertime and you're driving on Taylor Road, unless you're really looking for it, you really don't know that there's a massive L Brands, Bath and Body Works facility right next door. So that's kind of the idea. There are some logistic buildings. There's going to be 3 of them. 2 buildings are going to be at around the 250,000 square feet piece, and then 1 building will be around 350,000 square feet. What that all means in reality is that this has the potential to bring in as up to, at minimum, around 400 jobs to the community, which if it does when it's built out, which we assume it will be because nobody gets into business with, to not make money. But once it does get built out to that complex will be in our top 5 as biggest employers in the city, following Victoria's Secret, Bath and Body Works. Then we have Dynalab, COPC, the school district, and then it will be this location. So again, this will probably be what the general idea looks like. The payroll overall will be around $18 million plus. So that'll be a good benefit for everyone, and then obviously the city will take its little cut on that, but it will be able to provide a lot of jobs in an area that already has logistics by it, especially when you look at all of the things coming along. The 70 and Taylor Road interchange is going to be coming there, and Central Ohio is a logistics hub right now. There's a lot of things going on. We have not been told exactly who's going into these particular buildings yet, but we're getting a general idea of it, but that is set. They'll be in our planning and zoning meeting sometime in April. I think the second meeting is what it's set for right now, with the hopes that if everything moves the way that they want it to there, they'll hopefully be breaking ground sometime by July or August of this year. So they want to move on it quick and get things up because obviously the Central Ohio job market is one of those things that necessitates it. For us, it's important because it helps diversify our economy a little bit. Like one of the biggest fears is what happens if nobody wants to buy Bath and Body Works. I know that that's a shocking thing that nobody is going to consider. But if they were to leave or Victoria's Secret were to leave, that would be devastating to the city. So our goal is to try and find ways to find other things to help compensate for it. And this is a project that we've been working on for quite some time. So I'm happy to announce it. I'm sure there'll be questions about that as we kind of go through, but that's what's set there. We also have new details on what used to be known as the Oliver site. So for those of you that are familiar, this is the land on Lancaster. You're probably very familiar with this. The land on Lancaster, so many years ago, a developer purchased it from the church and actually purchased the house on the opposite side. And they were looking to put some multifamily in there. The way that this goes is they go to planning and zoning. And planning and zoning gives you the general framework, kind of like what I just showed you. If it's approved through there, then it goes to more strict engineering evaluation. So they look at everything from the zoning code to number of parking spaces to traffic flow, and most importantly, especially in this area, is what they call water detention. So if it rains, the rule is that it cannot, the development cannot adversely impact the water flow in the area in any way. It can make it better, but it certainly cannot make it worse. And there's a set of metrics that they had to follow. Well, the previous development was never able to get there. They got close, but they didn't get the actual clearance from our engineering company to meet our standards that we wanted, which is why it was never built. Now, at this point in time, you may have seen some of the trees have been cut down. That is mostly because it is their property and they're free to take them down. They're doing it in anticipation that this project does pass and move forward as far as the engineering part of it, because they have to get the trees down by April 1st because of what is known as the Indiana bat. Have you ever heard of the Indiana bat?
They're not.
It's a habitat, so you can take trees down from basically like the November until March 31st. And if it's anything after that, you have to get a special certification because the trees in the area are used for habitat for Indiana bat. Now, does that mean you can't cut down your trees from April to November? You can, you just actually have to have somebody, you actually have to pay somebody to be out on site for about 24 hours staring at the trees. And if they see anything, then you can't do anything until the next season. So that's part of it, so that's why a lot of people want to get those trees down prior to. The actual engineering is being evaluated. I'm supposed to hear back by Friday whether or not it has met the qualifications for it. Given the fact that I have not heard anything at this point in time, and I know the layout is different, there's not as many units as what was with the previous one, it will most likely meet the requirements, but I cannot say that until I have it in here. I'll let you know next week what I hear when the time comes. But those are the big things there. Any questions?
Nope.
All right. Questions about everything, but not the top 5 biggest job development creations in the city. Yay! Okay, all right, that's fine. Don't worry, one day I'll get a Roosters and then that'll be a whole different conversation. On the ballot this May is actually an interesting thing. It's the Ohio Public Works Commission. I spoke about it at council the other day. This is where cities and municipalities apply for grant funding to do road projects. So Main Street was done through this, Wagner Road, Summit Road will be done through this. What the state does is they take some of the fees from the gas tax, permissive taxes all the way across, they put it together, and then they bond out a ridiculous amount of money and they spread it out all the way throughout Ohio, but they have to authorize this every 10 years. And so this is the year that you do it, and so it doesn't cost you anything more, it doesn't raise property taxes, it doesn't impact income taxes, it's basically just reauthorizing the same thing. But what it does is it helps take projects that are very large, like what we're talking about, Main Street, Wagner, Summit, that are multiple millions of dollars, and it helps provide funding for it that is either grant-oriented or zero-interest loans, which for cities that are trying to improve their roadways, sometimes that's why it's difficult, is we don't have the funds to do that. So this is an opportunity out there, so please take a look at it. Again, it doesn't raise your taxes in any way, you won't even see a noticeable difference, other than the fact that it'll help the city not have to go to taxpayers to raise money for road projects. So that's a good one. All of that makes me hungry because we have this spaghetti dinner this Saturday night at Messiah Lutheran from 5 to 8 p.m. And this is for the Reynoldsburg Community Association, which is always a fun time. There's always people there. I hope you're able to make it this year. It's just good. It's good food and it's for a good cause because it helps generate money to make sure that they can pay for the 4th of July parade, the Halloween events, and Christmas on the Town. So if you can make it, great. It's not very expensive, $10 a ticket for adults, and I think if you're kids, it's less than that. Come on out, it's a lot of fun. I'll be there around 6-ish, so if you have plenty of questions that you want to ask about whatever, come on out. It's always a good time for that. Any questions so far?
Yep, 2. Any more info about the project across from Glen Rest?
Yes, so they are in their engineering phase right now. They are trying to refine everything to get it to a point to submit to planning and zoning. Their goal is to have that in planning and zoning probably by July of this year. Their hope is that, again, if everything passes the way that it wants to, the construction will start before the end of this year. Yeah, but they're all on track. They're right now actively looking for tenants. They know one is going to be a restaurant. I can't tell you what it is. I really want to tell you what, but I'm not allowed to tell you what it is. And then the other parts are some medical and or like speed agility training, that type of thing that we're working with. And so once we have all those details and they've got that locked in, that's when they're going to bring it to planning and zoning, and then we're off to the races. So we're really looking forward to that.
And the next one is, did I hear you mention the 70 Taylor interchange on ramps and exit ramps?
Yep, that's going to happen. So the Ohio Department of Transportation, District 6, they did receive their funding to what they call right-of-way acquisition. So all the land in the area that would be needed for the property for this project, they've got the funding now to go out and actually use that money to start buying up the pieces. And when you're starting to do that, it's just a matter of time before the remainder comes through. The construction schedule is subject to change, but their intent is that this project starts in some fashion in 2027, which, believe it or not, is not that far away. So they are applying for the construction grant money, in May of this year. They'll find out in January, February of 26. Then they'll continue on with the rest of their engineering and finalize all their right-of-way, and then construction again starts in 27, which will be the last part of a multi-phase project of East Side Freeway. So it's 270 and 70, Bryce and 70, 256 and 70, and now this Taylor Road and 70 interchange. So there's a lot of things going along with that that will be kind of interesting. So, all right, I got told last time that even though after I said if there are any other questions, that we shut the show down, and then we got a question right after that. So I'm going to make sure we take our time. Litter cleanup, it is getting warmer out, so we are looking for people to join in a litter crusade to go ahead and pick things up. It doesn't have to be a group, but it can be. If you can adopt a road anywhere in Reynoldsburg, it doesn't have to be a big road, but a section of it. I believe the Community Association actually was out on Taylor Road the other week. I know the Reynoldsburg area Democrats are getting ready to start. They do Lancaster from basically Main Street to the borderline. I think the Visitors Bureau has done some things in the past. Lions Club have done some things in the past, things like that. So those are the ones that are out there. So if you're interested, feel free. If you just want to come out and just pick them up anyway, just let us know. We'll have the buckets and the trash pickers and all that stuff for you. All right, with that, this is our last March. Can you believe it's already the end of March? It's our last March 12 o'clock show. So we will kick off April with our spring showers and Reynoldsburg City School Board member Jenny Quesenberry. So I'm sure we'll hear her perspective because now that school will be starting back up, some new things will be coming on there. And with that, second chance for questions?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you for your work as a board member. It's not always the easiest job, especially with everything going on, but I do appreciate it. I want to shout out again the boys basketball team for their amazing season. I know they'll be recognized a lot. I know it didn't end up the way that they wanted, but we still love them and they represented the city proud. Also want to shout out to the Special Olympics basketball team who also played in the tournament and did exceptionally well. We have a couple of people here that will claim credit for coaching some of those people to that third place spot. So I think it's a real good thing. But thank you to all of you, and for everyone else, take a look at what our schools are doing. Go out to some of these things. Go out and take a look at what our kids are doing in art and science and mathematics and everything else and how it's all integrated. It's not what you think, and there's much more going on, much more positive things going on than most people realize. So with that, I will see board member Jenny Quesenberry next week. Mandy, thank you today.
Thank you.
Everybody else, stay safe, stay respectful, and as always, please put your shopping carts away.
There's one last question.
See, there we go. I knew it.
Any news on the Alliance / old Kmart's?
Yes, they are getting ready to go into construction. Right now they are targeting mid to late May to get that process starting. You'll probably see some movement in May, construction trailer out there and that type of thing. But they were in last Thursday, just kind of finalizing some details. A lot of it is making sure that when they change the configuration of what they're doing, they had to make sure that Columbus was okay with it because there's a lot of Columbus sewer and water going under there. So to make sure that nobody's building anything on top of a big sewer line would probably be a good idea. So that's why it's taken a little bit longer, but they are on track to go ahead and get back under construction. And it'll be pretty quick. Most of the underground stuff is done, so this will be when all the fun building up stuff happens, which is, let's be honest, as much as I enjoyed watching the library get everything kind of cleared out and all that, it really didn't get fun until they started building up. So
That's all.
all right, that's all for now. All right, thanks everybody again. Have a great weekend. We'll see you.